Now, today what I want us to look at is how do we pick data in a folder? How do we connect different sheets? So I have a folder here we are going to work with. This is, try to name this bias. Okay, here we go. So I have data in a sales versus target data. We're going to use this in like for the next 3 sessions because it is going to give us a lot of mileage, a lot of things we are going to do them using this data. Now, the mere look to this data, you see that these people have a sales report of 2017. Most of the cases, you can always take time, explore your data before you go ahead, understand your data before you go ahead to use it. So if I explore this data, this is 2017. It has all the columns up to I. You can go ahead even and open the others to do the exploration in case you're not sure of how that data is picked. Because most of the cases, when you're to use data, you must make sure that it has the same properties. Like now, this is 2018, and this is 2017. But when you look at both of the reports, they have the same data, which means it is the same template the team is using to capture data for the 3 years. Now, that is the mini exploration I've done, but there is a lot you can do even if you're picking this directly in a database. You can always go ahead and explore data in your database. You understand exactly what you need to pick, how you're going to pick it, how you're going to merge and append the different files you'll be connecting to your report. Now, today we are going to connect these 3 reports, the sales report. We are going even to load the dimension table. We are going to load the targets table. Then I will show you, if time allows, how we model this. Now, I'm going to trick this by creating a different folder. I'm going to create a different folder, and I will call this folder sales. Now, I will move first the 2017 and 2018. So let me first leave out the 2019. There is something I want us to look at some point when we are transforming this data. So which means we are going to pick data from the folder sales. So open your new Excel sheet. Open your new Excel sheet. It is a blank sheet. I will save this first. Remember always to save. I've seen people crying, I've lost my data, blah, blah, blah. So let's always have a discipline of saving your data. So I'm going to save this data in the same folder. I'll save it as session 2. And today is 2024 May 22. So I've saved my sheet. Now we shall go to get data. That is in data, then get data. This time we are not picking just an Excel file. We are not picking just a CSV file. We are going to pick data in a folder. So why do I select folder than picking each file independent? There are 2 reasons, or 1. The reason is that we need to pick data to direct our workbook or our report to a certain folder that every time you want to update, just drop the same template of an updated data in that sheet or in that folder, your data will be updating automatically. And that's what we are going to do. That's why you see that I've put this one outside the sales folder such that we are going to connect these 2 reports first. Then we see next time if we drop here 2019, does it pick automatically? So, and on a daily, that's what you should do when you're running these reports on a daily. Just create your folder, put there your data, connect your queries to that folder. Just always every morning download the different updated worksheets, drop them in that folder. So here we come to get data. This time we are picking data from a folder. So I'm connecting my worksheet to a folder. Yes, you'll go ahead, always browse that folder. You should know where the directory where that folder sits. Yes, I know it sits here. Then in sales versus target, and this is the folder I need. Because I selected here get data from a folder, it is only giving me folders, but you will understand that even when I selected sales and versus target, I should have seen these files. I didn't see them. I only saw the folder because I'm only focusing on folders. Otherwise, I should be seeing these three files here. They are not there because I'm picking a folder. That's why I'm only seeing folders. In case you add more folders in that subfolders in that folder, you will have to see those folders. So the moment I click on sales and say open, I have selected that folder. Now it is going to open for me that folder, and it will show me all the files in that folder, whether Excel, whether PDF, whether all the files. Now it is upon you to create out a keyword of us. You can put all your files in that report, in that folder, but generate a keyword that every time I download sales, there should be a keyword, maybe sales July, sales May. There should be a keyword that you'll always focus or point to. Now here I have my two files. I'm not going to load them. I've told you, for a better discipline, never use load at the first instance because I want to transform these two files. So I'm not going to combine them immediately before I see how they are behaving, their attributes. So their attributes, those are the records we'll find inside. So I will transform this query editor. Now, when I say transform, now you see it is giving me a directory where these files are lying. So this is the M code. That's how it starts. It has already generated this, which means the next time I change the directory of that folder and my reports or my dashboard starts reading errors because it is no longer seeing the folder, you can always come here on source. You can always come here on source and change this folder path, or you can rebrowse again and pick the folder path or the new one where your files are. Then the other bit of the reports and all the transformations and all the models, they will automatically refresh with the new directory. So this is fine. Now, whatever we are seeing here, these two files, 2017 and 2018, our main focus is not on all these attributes, whether it is an Excel, whether it is when was it accessed, modified, all this metadata, we call this metadata, is not our worry. Now, my worry is this content, and you'll see that there is a difference between this column, let me call it a column for now, with a symbol here. When I hover on it, it shows me combined files. Then these ones are having a filter icon. So at the end of the day, I don't need all these files, all these columns, but these columns may help you to filter out exactly what you need. Now, let me play something. Just a moment. I'm just doing a trial in case you meet it at some point. You should know how to overcome. So I'm going to open my downloads. Then I want to move any file. Let me move this screenshot. Let me get a PDF file here. Yes, let me move this PDF file there. Then let me move the PBX file there. Now you see I have moved there many file types. Let's go back to our Power Query. So if you want to refresh this preview, you can always come here and refresh preview. You may not refresh all because we don't want data to load. We shall just refresh what we need to see here. So when you refresh a preview, you're going to see all the files picking, because remember we are looking at a folder. But now the challenge is, do I go ahead and combine all these files? No, that is the big mistake you can ever do. So there are two options. You can always first either look at the naming and pull out a common or pull out a keyword. But let me play it again differently. If this is showing sales screenshot, just to say. So when I come here and preview and refresh my preview, you'll see that if I come here and say I want a keyword with anything with sales, I'm going even to pull this JPEG. So it can always be your focus that my reports, all my reports I need, first of all, I need XLS, X, then on top of that, I need anything with sales. But there may be another XLS which is not sales. Let me again update my report here, pull anything that is, actually this has the word sales. I don't need the word sales this time. Okay, so I'm going to pull this data there. Refresh preview. Now, let's pull out our data. We are going to use two instances. It is all about you being creative and pull out the right data. Now, first of all, I will start with, I need anything that has the word sales. Now, what I prohibit you from doing, never use this that like and select all, go ahead and select this, that, and that, because these are the two files I need, or the three files I need. And when you do OK, obviously it will filter for you the files you need. You can even go ahead and remove this screenshot, like you delete one. You see everything you selected here, logged here, that the name which was equal to this, the name which was equal to this. Now it means that when you use this criteria of selecting or filtering, the moment you drop a new file here for 2019, it will not refresh because you manually picked the documents here. So we don't do that. So what I will do, I will cancel this step because this step was wrong. Now, the step you're supposed to take is you always use this option. I know many people never want to use the text filter. So you always use this option here, text filters, then go to, I want anything that contains, don't say equals, but that contains, because I have a keyword in my head I want to use. So I will say here, I want anything that contains sales. You can even put sale. So go ahead and do OK. Now, when I do OK, everything that has sales is showing up here. Let me try out something. What if this was a lowercase like this? Do we pick anything? No, because that kind of filtering is case sensitive. So since it is case sensitive, if you have different files that have both capital and lowercase, which means I can go ahead always put the uppercase of sales, and you also say, oh, another thing that contains, you pick another one with a lowercase like this. You can have many options as you can. So the moment I do this, it means anything with the uppercase or lowercase will pick. That is one. Then let's pass another filter because this is not enough. Why are we doing all this? We are trying to do the right steps that our data can always automate in the future. That's why I'm not selecting these ones manually. You see here on the filter, we no longer have the other ones because we used a different option of text filters. Come back to the extension. We need only Excel files. So I'll come back to extensions here now. Since I will always need Excel files, I can manually update this. It means every time it will be an Excel file. But then another thing is, you see, because I've selected XLS, there is one that has disappeared because it was a JPEG, right? But the day you will upload their CSV, it will have changed everything, which means here, you can always come back here if you know that at some point you'll get CSV. You add another one, you say or, don't say and. I will explain those in future. You say or anything that contains a .csv. It means whether it is a CSV, whether it is an Excel file, XLS, it will always load. So you can always have those options, and that's why we have these applied steps here for your comfortability to update anything you want. Now, remember we have done all these. These columns are no longer of purpose to us. Why? Now the purpose is on the content. So we no longer need all these. What do? I will right click on this column. You move and say remove other columns because we don't need others. Or you can select all the others and delete them, but that's the wrong way to do it. Just come to this, right click, remove other columns. These same options we right click here, they are always at the top, either in home or in transformation. So when we come to home here, remove other columns, we have this, remove other columns, because you have selected this. Then there is another option of choose columns. So when you go to choose columns, here you can select the columns you want and what you don't want. That always will come when you're doing some other stuff. But for now, we shall go with right click, remove other columns. So the moment I remove other columns, I remain with only my content. So I will go ahead, what is in this content, I'm first going to open one of the binary. So the moment I click on this binary, it shows me what is in. There is a file with a table, that is the sales file with a table. The moment I open that table, this is the table. So that's when maybe I want to preview, but I don't need all these steps that I've created. So I will cancel this, I'll cancel this, and I'll cancel this. I come back here. So I'll go ahead and combine because I've already explored my data. It can easily combine. So go ahead, combine. It is going to evaluate the query. After evaluating the query, it will, now here they tell us that, you know what, we are going to preview a sample file, either the first file, which is the sales 2017. So the moment I click here, they will give you a preview. And always a preview is limited. It is always truncated with size. They can't give you everything. So that's why here they were saying they're giving me a sample file, which is my 2017, which I will use to preview. The moment I feel that, yes, this is the data I need to load, then I will go ahead and do OK. Now, the moment I do OK, you leave your queries to process. And here we should be having our query already loaded. Now, let's go back to the applied steps. You know, we have loaded from here. That is, we filtered here the hidden file. So that step is always a supporting step. We came and evoked the custom functions. We came here and expanded the table. All these are done in the back end. Then here, it even helped you and changed the data type. That's why you see that all the dates have been given a calendar data type here. You no longer need to, because when I click back here, you'll see that the data type was not yet marked. They were all showing it is either ABC, a text, or it is a number 1, 2, 3. So that is what you'll always find. But the moment it applies an auto data type, you can even check whether it has applied the right data type. Now, this is an invoice number. Most of the cases, there are some things which we don't want them to be numbers because we can never do any aggregation on them. Aggregation, I mean, you can never sum, you can never get difference or get a growth. So these ones are always text. I will always mark them as text to make sure that I don't. Now, here they're asking me, you want to change this column type. Do you want all the changes to be part of this change type step they created for you? There is a yes or no. When you say replace current, it means that all the changes I'm going to do by changing type, they will be counted under here. Then it means that I can't undo the bigger steps that have been done. So most of the cases you can take that, or you can say, let me create a new step for what I'm doing manually. But remember, When your data is refreshing, it runs through all these queries. It runs through all these steps. So the many steps you create when you're transforming your data, that's the much time, the resource you'll use when you're refreshing your data. This data is very small. It may not create a difference, but there is data where I told you that in Power Query loads up to 25 million rows. You know that Excel only loads 1 million. So Power Query loads up to 25 million rows. It means that if you created any one additional step to refresh 25 million transactions, is a big task you'll have given to your data. So always you have to make those decisions. So I will replace because this is something small. Even if I make a mistake, I can repeat it. So I will replace, which means when you say replace, everything is being added here. Now, let me take you through on the M code that is being created in the back end. Now, you see the step we are on, this is the code that is creating in the back end. It means that even I can edit directly from here. Now you see that we have changed this invoice and it is in the same set we have changed it to text. It means that even I can change this custom ID directly from the M code. How can you look at this M code? Well, by clicking on the advanced editor. So when I click on the advanced editor, this is the code Excel is doing for you in the back end. But we are focusing on only the user interface, but in the background, this is what they are creating for you. So which means someone who can directly code directly from here, this person can come this side and change the data directly. So let's say if we change this customer ID and we change it to type text, so I am just copying and pasting just to minimize on the time. So we are changing this from the int 64. Int 64, this is the number data type. So I'm changing this to text data type. So the moment I change this to text data type, I'm going to click on done. Then we look at our column. So you see the customer ID has already changed to text. So this is the code, this is the user interface, the easy one you can always use, but someone else can look at this code. With time, when you start understanding how M code is, you can even edit or correct your errors directly from here. You look at your code and know that there is something that went wrong. You go to another step and you look at the code, you know that this, I was doing this. You go to another step where I removed columns, it shows you. I selected column number 1, then removed I selected content and removed other columns. When you come here on filtering, this is what it shows you. You see, we filtered row each with an extension of XLS, and we did or still text contains extension this CSV, because the extension was the column. That's why it is in that curly square brackets. Then so that's the M code. I'm not going to drill much on that, but it was just a hint for you to understand how Power Query is running this. Now, let's go ahead and change the other data types. Obviously, I was changing this to text because I don't need them to be numbers. I'm not going to sum them at any point. Even the product ID, you can change it to data. So you can even come here, click on that and change it to text. The moment I change to text, it's still asking me, do you want to replace? Yes, replace, please. So look at the others. All these, I need them to be numbers or decimals. Now, this is a decimal because there was a decimal. This is a decimal. The 1.2 is a decimal. Then the 123 is a whole number. Then the ABC is a text. Now, when all is done, there are other helping queries that are always here. Never delete them. Never delete this, but you can rename them. So I can rename this supporting query as, I will come here, rename. I can rename this as sales, don't put a space, sales query. Now, it means that even if I loaded many queries here, I can always easily tell where my queries are. So that is it. You can even always collapse it, but never delete them, because the moment you delete them, that's where all the other steps are saved. Now, this is my cells. Now, when you check this, you'll find that they are combined. I don't know whether I can run them here. Can run the dates. Sorry, I'm looking for 2018. Anyway, I may not get it right now, but let's get it this way. Now, there are many transformations you can do. Like if you're going to do your analysis, but you need another date, like you need a year, maybe you need a month, maybe you need a date, you can do all those. Let's add, you can even always choose which date am I going to use in my analysis, because you can't use both dates. There is issued date, there is due date. But as we go ahead, when we create a calendar table, I will show you that all the two can be used at once, because in your analysis, you may want to know when was the due date, when was the issue date. So how many days between there we're running for that transaction or that order? All that we shall look into through. But for now, let's see how we add columns. Now, if I pick the issue date, because mostly this is when the transaction was logged. So you'll always come to add columns. I'll keep skipping. We shall not go in that chronological order because there is a lot to do. So when I come to add column, there is always this space you can use from date and time. And you can always have this enabled if this calendar, if the data type is in date data type. So which means when I come here on date, there are many things I can extract. And how do I extract this? By adding a column. So you can extract age. You can extract age, it means that it will get a difference between today and that date. You can extract the date only. You can, if there is another text like Thursday, this, you can extract the date only. You can come here, you can extract the year, you can extract the starting year, the ending year, you can extract month. All this is yours to look into: month, start month, end month, days in a month, month name. So for me, I'll say, let me go with month name. Immediately, the month name will be created here at the end. So when you look here, this is January 13th. And when you look this side, the month is created. So let's go ahead and create the year. I'll create the year here. Year will be created. And just to test that all my files are here, 2017 and 2018, I'll click on this, load. It is going to load all the two files, and it will show you that you have the 2 years loaded. Just that was a preview, but don't filter. So you can go ahead and add other things you can add, but going forward, I'll show you how we create a calendar table. Now, by the way, if you have a question, please, you can unmute and stop me, but since it is being recorded and you don't want to spoil your recording, I can proceed and we shall have a break for the Q&A. Now, since this data was already clean, there is nothing much I'm going to clean here, like maybe removing blank spaces. That we shall see that in complicated data we shall be cleaning up, but this data is already clean. And now I'm going to go back to home. Now the decision comes here. This time we don't want to load this data into the sheet, into the worksheet, because we don't want to look at it in the worksheet. We are going to use it to do our own analysis, pivots, graphs, and all that. We don't want to load this data in a worksheet. So that's where you'll always come and choose to use close and load to. So close and load to, it will always give you that dialog box. Here it automatically gives you loading this in a table. I don't want to load it in a table. You saw how we loaded a table last time. You can load a pivot table, but this is not so much a requirement, because you're going to use this data for many things. We're not going to only use it for one pivot table. That's why I will always go directly to only create a connection. We are creating a connection to the other folder. We are not loading data in this worksheet. It means that I'm leaving the data where it is. Here I'm only loading and saving the queries. Then the next thing is I will tick here, add this data to the data model. I will tell you the purpose to this, why we shall always tick this if we need to use this data in a data model. So you always tick that and say, okay. Now, you'll see here the queries are going to load, and the sales query will load with the number of rows. So here we have loaded 245,000 rows loaded. Now, this is only, we have seen that here we loaded only 2017 and 2018. Okay. Now, the bit for Power Query is done. You can go ahead and now start using your data for your reports. The moment I say this is for pivots, I can start using my data. How? I will go, you can click anywhere, then you go to your insert button. You all know this. Insert, then I'm inserting a pivot. Now, this time, when you come to your pivot, we have a pivot from an external data source. Because we don't have the data here, we have not clicked into the data, so don't use this, or don't click directly here. So I will click from a data source. Or if I've already added this to a data model, you'll click on from a data model. So the moment I click from a data model, it will ask me where to put the pivot table. I will say okay, and here already we have this in a data model. Now, if we didn't check the other check of a data model, we wouldn't have used that option. There are many purposes why we use that option. So now here, which means I can go ahead and use my data. I have here, I can pick years here, and I can go ahead and we don't have amount, by the way. Now, let's go ahead. The moment you realize that, there is a column we need to add, I can go back, because here you see we have unit and the net weight. So this is for pivot table, and this is for the queries and connections. The moment I click here, you can double click your query to reopen the Power Query again. The moment you reopen the Power Query, we shall analyze and see that yes, we have the quantities, we have the unit price. This is the net weight, which maybe we may not use. Then we have the product ID and all that, but we need the amount or the value. So which means we have to create a calculated column, that is one, or you can have a measure. Now there are two things. I know we are going to skip somehow, but for the betterment, okay, for now let's create a column. Not taking you directly to measure. So the moment I select these two like this is called Power Query. There is a lot of intelligence that is in the back end that you don't need to worry about. The moment I select these two and I go to add column, we shall find this highlighted. If I select outside again, it is disabled. But if I select these two, select the two, you press a control to select the other. There is here statistics. Statistics, you can sum these two columns. You can have a minimum, a maximum, standard deviation, count values, all that. This is not what I need. Let's come to the standard. Now the standard we have, you can add, you can multiply them, you can subtract them, you can divide them, you can get the module. You know, module is this divided by this, the balance is the module. You can get the percentage of one of the two. This time we are going to multiply them. Very easy. The moment I click on multiply, this and this have been multiplied into this column all the way through up for all the 2,245 transactions. So you'll find that if you test out this times this, if you test this out that 6 times 4.4, that you should be getting that. You can try it out at your own pace. Now we can rename this to amount, or you can rename it to GMV. You sales guys, you always need those slogans. So this is my amount. Getting it has been very easy. You can check here the step how you got it. It was Where insert multiplication, enter the number, no. Insert multiplication, rename. Anyway, that step we may not get it, but if you go to the advanced, I always love to look at the advanced. So you see here, we did a multiplication of the unit price and we multiplied it to the net weight. Is that the right thing we did? No, it was not meant to be the right thing. We selected the wrong columns. We were meant to select this and this. That's why actually here it was showing us something different. I was supposed to multiply unit price and quantities. Yeah, it has changed now. This time this, you get that. Yeah, it has changed. This time this, you get that. Yes. So you see some of the things how you can correct you can correct some of the steps you have done. You can always come to the advanced editor and check what has been done. You see now this has changed to quantity and unit price, which is fine. And I've renamed this from multiplication to amount. Here they created it by creating amount, it as multiplication, and they multiplied this and that. And here there is a word each. It means each transaction was multiplied with its predecessor, with its companion, like quantity, unit price, quantity, unit price. And you should always check here that in case there is any error, it will always show you that there is a syntax error. Let me say, if I put here a comma, automatically, because where I've put a comma, it is not part of the M code, it is not the syntax of M code, it is showing me that there is a token of expected. You can even show the errors, though I don't want to go, it is showing you the errors here because of putting here a comma. So if I remove it, it will, no syntax errors and have been detected. So I think this is it, guys. Now I will do done. We go ahead now, load this. So this time, even if you just close and load, it will load. It will load the data here. Then I should be able now, when I come back to this pivot and click on the pivot tab, I should be able to see the amount column, which means if I drag the amount column and put it here, there we go. Now, just formatting this into number formats like this, there we go. And what else can we do on this? Actually, this. So, which means you can even go ahead and create your graphs and all that. You can insert a chart now. Let's say I insert this chart. So every time you update your data or your dashboard, you should be able to have this update automatically. Now, what we are going to see is the magic we want to all see, that if we drop there the 2019 sheet, is this data going to update? Let's do it. I will come to sales, then I can open both here. Just go back. So this is it. Now I want to drop this sales 2019 to that. So the moment I drag this and drop it there, it is dropped there. Come to your sheet or come to your data or come to your query and refresh it. Now you see we have 245, 848 rows. I'm going to refresh this. We'll see whether it will increase. So you see it has already surpassed what we had. We're in 300. Automatically, 2019 has added. Here, automatically, the graph has picked the 2019. So that's the way how you can automate your reports. It means that I've woken up one morning, they want a report, just go to the system, download the file. Don't clean it, because the cleaning you did it long time ago in Power Query. Dump it there, the report will automatically refresh. So you'll find that you have saved over 1 hour. And that hour you'll have saved, it is the hour you took to learn Power Query. It is the time you spent, it is the cost you had to have Power Query, Power BI, all the Power Pivot mastered. So yes, there is a lot we have to do, and I will proceed maybe to load this before we drop. We have like 30 minutes. So you can go ahead, and I know with graphs I'm not going to teach you so much. With graphs, if I say format data series. So you see here there is another tab that has added. Now there is this, the format, there is this, the the pivot, there is this, the queries and connections. Don't always get lost and look for something you can't see. So if I come here, I can increase, reduce the gap, you can add the data labels, you can do all what you need to do. I will leave that for you. Now, the next thing I want to go for is you check here. I know we are going to use this in another session, but let's see how we can load this today. Now, when you check in the same file, we have the dimension table. Then another thing maybe I can maybe tell you. When you check this data of ours, if I go back to the queries and open the Power Query, it means that this sales data, I can't know the name of the customer because here we have a customer ID. That's one. I can't know the name of the product because we have a product ID. But you'll always have other tables, which we call dimension tables, which don't change every day. It is a master data. What changes every day is this sales sheet or this sales data. That's why we always use the IDs. The reason why we use the IDs is to make sure that we save it lightweight. Why? Is because when you go to data types, this one is counted as 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll find that only letter S has more than 20 bits. That is in bits. Go and research about bits. It has like more than 20 bits it occupies in space. You see that thing of kilobytes, megabytes. Your file reads the bits it is saving. With alphabets, the bits are saved in hex. It means that you'll find like letter A is having like 16 bits. But here you only have 4 bits. That's why they prefer ID codes numbers in databases than names. So when you come to customer ID, you'll see that these are only 7. But if we chose to have a name here, Sabit Christopher, every letter, let's say it has 16 bits. You multiply them out for all the 19 characters. You'll find that 19 times 16, those are the bits your file is accumulating with. You go to another person, Virunji Godfrey, those are already also like 90 bits. At the end of that day, your file is going to be heavy for nothing. Yet you are repeating here Sabit Christopher like 2,000 times because he has done 2,000 orders for the 3 years. So that is something you should take as a data analyst. So here we have the dimension table. I'm going to preview this. Remember I told you that you can't preview any Excel. You can't open any Excel when the Power Query editor is open. We try it, yes. So the moment I double click on this, it will tell me that Excel can't do this because a dialog box is open. So I will close this or do close and load. If you did any changes, then your file will open. Now in this file, the dimension table, there is customer ID. Now the customer table. So the customer table has the customer ID, the name, the status, the line of business, the city they live in. You can imagine how could you have added all these in the other file, and every time customer Sabit Christopher buys, all this is repeated. So that's how we denormalize. We call it denormalization in data analysis. Normalization is combining them in one sheet. Denormalization is having different sheets. So we have the product here. You see product ID, the product name, and where it is grouped. Grouping can be foods, non-foods, blah, blah, blah. We have the product grouping. You have it here. This is milk, sugars, foods category. We have the salesperson. You can imagine, even the salesperson, we can't load their IDs. We can't load their names the other side. But when we load a table for the salesperson separate, this table can even take a year to change, because you can maybe if you have a high attrition rate, you can have these people for the full year without changing, which means you're going to use the same data because of data modeling. Then every time an order comes in, it comes with a column of the salesperson, where they live, where the manager, and all that. Then these are the dates. Now this is the calendar table. So we are going to load all these tables quickly. If I double click on this, there is what we call, when we come on transformation, we are going to look at this, what we call appending. Sorry. Just a moment. I'm looking for it here. Here, sorry. Now let's go home. It is here. There is merging queries and appending queries. When we reach that point, I will show you how we do it. You can load on the different sheets, like how you see this sheet, this one. It has more than one sheet, which means if these sheets I loaded them and I want to combine them, you can do that. And we shall call that appending queries. Okay. We shall reach there. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. It means that you are eager and following. Godfrey, do you have anything we can kick off? Because I want us to do some data modeling before we drop this call today. I know I will be quick, just I want to make sure that at least we have some mileage for you to practice some of the things.
Mine, Chris, is I lost it a little bit the last 2 minutes when you went to table dimensions.
Oh, no, table dimension, it was just exploring. This is table dimension, I said. We have saved the customer data alone, product data alone, product groups, salespersons. These are different tables. Why do we do this? Which way I told you that we call it the normalization. That in the other case, every transaction that comes through, every order that comes through would have come through with all this data on the same row, on the same line. It means that if one customer gets 200 orders in a year, all these salesperson data will be repeated, because these are the same people every day. It means that you're repeating things, you're increasing on how you're saving your data, the storage capacity, because you're doing some things that are repetitive. But the moment you denormalize, you make the sales table alone, because we know that we can do data modeling. That when we do data modeling, automatically this ID will be connected to any ID that comes through with any order. And at any point, we can tell that this order was created by so and so. So that's what I was saying. So I was telling you that the next bit we are going to load those dimension tables. Now, last time when I was doing a presentation, I explained about fact tables and dimension tables. If you have a pen and paper, write it, go read through that. I will explain them in the next session. Fact tables and dimension tables. At the moment, the sales data is a fact table. If it is a table, then it is a fact table. Then the other dimension tables that don't change always, those we call them dimension tables. So that's the difference, but read more about that too. Now we are going to load those, that CSV file. First of all, I have to understand, is it an Excel? Yeah, it is an XLS. So we are going to load an XLS. This time, I am going to go to data. This time, I don't need to point to a folder. Why? Because it is only one file. So I will directly point to that file. So you can point to a folder and pick it, but it doesn't make sense.
Still not to dwell on it much, but to understand. So the dimension, that one you uniquely identified. That one is not Power Query. You uniquely identified them and created them.
No, this is part of the data. It is part of the data we had. In other words, this is the data you have, which means you as a data analyst, you will have to create these dimension tables. You'll have to create all the SKUs you have. You create it as a different table, such that when orders come through, they should come with SKU ID or code. I have explained, yes, you'll go and read about bits and data storage. You'll understand more when you're saving something as an alphabet or when you're saving it as a number. So that's it. Let's go to loading. So we are loading an XLS, an Excel file or a workbook. This time it is this. I'll go directly and import it. And on importing it, it is going to load, and it will load with all the files that it has. Just leave out this file. This file was duplicated with 2 languages. There is French and English. Let's focus on the English. These are the sheets. Maybe you look at these icons. These are the sheets. The other ones are the table names. You get it? So I'm focusing on the sheets, not on the table names, but still you can focus on both. Why I'm saying this, don't get confused of this. It is just the way how they renamed that file in French. But still it can show you this is a calendar, this is a customer, this is product group, and the vendor who is the sales supervisor. So I'll start off with customer. The moment I preview customer, all well and good. Now, if I'm not going to combine, I know that it is already clean, because mostly the dimension tables, there is nothing much we are going to clean from there. They are always formatted pre-loading the data. So there is nothing I'm going to transform there. But if you have something to transform, maybe you want to separate the names, first name and second name, you can go ahead and transform. This time I'm going to load it directly, then I'll say load to, like what we did last time. So this time I'm loading it still as a connection. I have to add it to the data model. I'll say, okay, that one has loaded. If you find that it has loaded with a wrong name or you need to change the name, double click on it, come this side in the query, rename it here, give it the name you want, and that's it. Nothing we are changing here. That's why I said we can directly go ahead and load them directly from the other side. So close and load here. So I'll go ahead and load the others. So you can keep repeating the same thing, or you can duplicate this, because it is the same thing here, only that on the source, here on the navigation, we picked out only customer table. But for now, we are going to repeat this, just not to confuse you. Still dimension, I'm picking now dates. That's the calendar table. Load to and load to. Then when it loads, that is connection, data model, and go ahead and do that. So I'll be quick. You can stop me in case, but it is the same. They're the same steps I'm going to. So this
no shortcut of loading multiple.
No, you can say load multiple here. Yes, the shortcut is there, but most of the cases, you see this, I can select all of them and load to and load to connections. But in the initial stages, I don't always want to confuse people with select multiple, because it has its own dynamics when you're dealing with queries which you're going to combine. So here I can go ahead and load to connections, then we should be able, connections, then data type, okay? You see all of them are loading at once. It's good you always come with such questions for the shortcuts, though I wanted to show you the basics first, but it is fine, we have got it. But I know you have all understood how we have gone through this. Make sure that you check all your queries that are in data model. They are in data model. That you selected a data model here when you're loading to, or you can right click here, right click on that. Then when you come to load to here, it should show you that you had selected a data model. Now, we are loading the last file. What is the last file? Are the targets. It means that when you start analyzing and you want to see what they have sold versus target, at some point you need this target. So if I open this target file, just to preview, these are the targets. Now I'm going to leave the targets for today because it involves any pivoting, which I want us to do in the next session. We are going to do that the next time, because next time we have to come and see how we do Power Pivot and Power Query and Power View. And a few changes, the way how we create DAX, the way how we append and all that. Now, this time I'm going to go directly to Power Pivot. Now, there are two scenarios how you can get Power Pivot. When you go to data, at the extreme end under data tools, you should be having that green icon, which is showing you go to Power Pivot window. It takes us to Power Pivot window. Or you can go on your tab. You should always be having a Power Pivot window. If you don't have this, go to your file options, go to your options, go to the developer, that is advanced. No, not advanced, customize ribbon. You should make sure that this Power Pivot is ticked here. If it is not ticked, then tick it. If I untick it, you'll see that it will disappear. So options, then custom ribbon, then check Power Pivot and OK. If you don't have it, then you can have it. Here you can even rename what it should show you. So I will go ahead and OK. Then for those who, if you don't find it there even for checking, you can always come here on add-ins. Then you come here on Excel add-ins. Here, then you say go. The moment you do go, it will always drop here, then check it and OK. That is another option. But for me, I have it, so I'll go to Power Pivot directly, then go to Manage. The moment I click on Manage, it is going to open a Power Pivot for Excel. This is another window. It is not the other Excel file, but it is the Power Pivot. You see there are two different icons here. Now, when we look at this, we are looking at it in a data view mode. So this Power Pivot can load here more than 25 million rows. It is not a normal Excel. I know I'm not going to show you how we do a lot of things, but obviously you always have to keep refreshing and all that. That's where here we look at connections, what you have connected. I will want you to read about connections, read about relationships. But for now, I'm going to click on diagram view. Now, diagram view, this is how it comes in. The data we are dealing with, which has dimension tables and the fact table, which is a sales table. I'll pull the sales table here in the middle. Then the dimension tables, they can either be at the bottom or they can always be surrounding the pivot table, the fact table like that. Make sure that you reduce on size to make sure that everything is picked. So I'm picking the sales table here. So why am I putting the sales table inside? Because it is a fact table. That is one way you can design this. Or you can have the fact table if there are more than one on top and the dimensions table at the bottom. Now, here we are going to start creating relationships. There are two ways how you can create relationships. There is a way of right-clicking and creating relationship, create a relationship, or there is dragging an ID here and connecting it with directly another ID. We are going to use both of the options. Let me start with the customer ID. Now, the customer ID in its own table of customers, it is a primary key. But here the customer ID is a foreign key. Why? Because this is a sales table. The primary ID here is the invoice number, because every order has a different invoice number. So you should know that the primary key is always a unique ID in that table. But the primary key is always a unique ID in that table. But the foreign key is always repetitive. Like you can have an order with the same customer 200 times, which means the customer ID here will repeat many times. But here the customer ID should never repeat, because there is only one customer in that table. So if I right click and say create relationship, it will bring for me this table. The customer table. I want to create relationship with which table? I'll say I want to create it with the sales table. It will drop, and it has automatically linked out that, by the way, the customer ID is linking to the other one automatically. So I will go ahead and okay. The moment I okay, it automatically creates here a relationship. And the moment you hover on the relationship, it shows you which are being linked, which fields are being linked. Now here there is a 1, here there is a star. This one shows one to many. That here the ID is once, here it is appearing many times. So that is the kind of relationship we have. One to many, there is many to many, there is one to one, there are many relationships. Read about them. Now the other option is I will go ahead and drag and drop. Now let's say for product ID, I can drag this and link it to the product ID. It will create the relationship, which is this. The moment I double click on the relationship, it will open the other dialog, which means I'm linking this product to the sales table, this and that. And the moment you want to deactivate that relationship, you remove the active and say okay. The link will remain, but ideally you have made it inactive. Going forward, I will tell you that in Power BI, when we reach Power BI, I'll tell you the difference here. So I'll make sure that this is active again, which is always a default. Now I'll drag these ones quickly. Now the supervisor, we don't have a supervisor. We have a supervisor. We don't have a supervisor table, but that supervisor should be maybe in another table. Now here we're going to have the salesperson ID, drag and connect that to that. You have to make sure that you confirm the relationship it is one to many or many to one, but it should not be many to many. Many to many is not always a better relationship to use. It is used at some point because it exists, but always the data you deal with, few instances you'll have many to many. Then do we have groups here? Which other ID do we want? So when I look at this connected, when I look at this connected, when I look at that connected, what else do we have here? None. Then here we have a group ID, which means this table is a secondary table to this. That's why I'm bringing it this side. So we are connecting this group table to this, which means the different products have their own groups, which means that's where we have hierarchy. So here you can find a hierarchy, but I'm not going to go into that. Delete from the model. So most of the cases you'll have tables that are connecting to other tables, but not to the fact table directly. We call those hierarchies. And that is the purpose of denormalization. Now, here date, we are connecting it with this date. And again, the same date, we are connecting it with this date. Why? Because at some point, I may want to use both dates. But remember, here Excel is already telling you that the same ID, even though we are connecting it to both, one is going to be inactive. One is not going to be active. So you have to choose out which you want to make active. Remember I said the issue date is our major date. So it is this one. It is okay. Then this is our due date. The moment we found this is the issue date, we would have changed it to active and this one inactive, which means you can't have both linking to dates and you have both active. You can't do that. It's good it has come automatically. Now here we have finished our data modeling. It means if I pick here a category, I can directly make a report which is picking customers the other side, because all these now are connected together. So if I go back to data view, you may not see a lot, but when you go to every table, let me say to the group, the products table at the bottom, product group, then this is the sales. So when you come to every table here in date view, you'll see those with relationships. You'll see here at the top they have 1 to 2, 1 and 2. So you see product, this one. That's where the link is. Then when you come to product, you see this. When you come to dates, you see here. You get, that's where you can see the relationship from. But not to bother yourself, always have it in a diagram view. So that's it, guys. That's how we create a simple data model. Now, I will close and load this data model. By the way, it saves automatically, so you don't have to look for where to save from. You just close this, and it will automatically load. Now, if I come back to my pivot, this pivot, and I go back to my pivot here, you see that all these tables are having that data source icon. It means that they are all added in the data model, and which means that now I can pick anything from any file. Let's say here we are having these. Let's first go to the pivot design, change this to table form. Now here we're having here by sum, but if we want to group this sum by category, where do we find category? Category is all group. So if I get the group, this is the group, which means I can pick the group and put it in columns. Now you'll see that I'm bringing a group which is a different table, but I'm already analyzing it with the sales data. You see how that is? Let me first do like this. Or you can change actually these, you can change them like this. I can change the columns to be on group, then they are to be on columns. You see this? This group was coming from a different table, and these cells are from a different table. If we go back to our Power Pivot, this is what I'm talking about, guys. I've picked this group from here, category. I'm linking it directly with sales. Even not with product, but directly with sales. Why? Because the whole of this is already a model, that this is already connected to this indirectly through the product table. So it has already eased our work. We have not had any VLOOKUP, we have not had any XLOOKUP, but we already have our data visualized. So that's the beauty of having Power Query and data modeling. That is Power Pivot. So you can go ahead and do all the analysis. Next time, then I showed you here that when you want to pick any column, you can always search for it here. Don't struggle with expanding each one of one looking for what you want. Then I can also pick the sales person. I can pick the salesperson and bring the salesperson under column like this. Actually, let me delete this graph. So I can remove here. So you see, I'm having salesperson per grouping they are selling. Now, this one comes to you the wrong. I think now you're seeing how you have been struggling with your data, with your MDs, SKUs, how much I have sold revenue. So you'll find that if tomorrow I bring data for tomorrow and put it in the other folder, I'll just come on this graph or on this pivot and refresh. Deal done. You don't have to again sit down 1 hour doing a report when you have a lot to do. You have a lot of socials to do. You have a lot of KBs to give with your coworkers. So that is it, guys. You can analyze this data. Now, this data is all connected. You can do anything you want. You can have all the data you want, but some of the things you may not have them because we have not loaded the targets table. We haven't loaded. We haven't done any DAX. So next time, that is going to be on Saturday, we should be able to reintroduce DAX, and we should be able to do a bit of dashboard, a small dashboard. So I think this is going to give you now more time to try out and all that, but that's it. So today we have done Power Query, combining files, picking files from a folder, data modeling, creating relationships, and a lot of them. Say you can name them. So here you can easily tell who sells some of the SKUs, who doesn't sell the other SKUs. Like you can see this salesperson, they have selective SKUs they sell, because most of the SKUs they are not selling. They don't sell energy. They are selling energy drink, which is not sold by most of the sales supervisors. I'm already analyzing data because I've already cleaned and transformed this data. I'm easily now analyzing that. I can now easily tell a story for the different data points. Guys,